picking up where we left off in part one.
Okay.
So you see a screening of Cyborg. You're
Right.
not very impressed with it, to say the least. You call Jean-Claude's done with kickboxer. He plans on relaxing for a week or so in Asia, and he gets a call from you. Take it from there.
It's not that I wasn't impressed. The audience was laughing at the movie. Okay, it's got nothing to do with my opinion. Here's the audience. This is a test audience. They brought people in from the street to see this movie, and even at the beginning, there's little chuckles in the audience. People are laughing, and I realized what they were laughing at. I believe was Fender, the main villain, because he was this scary-looking dude, but he had this kind of high-pitched, effeminate voice. Yeah. It didn't match. It's kind of like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson doesn't have this deep, rumbling voice like Stallone, and people have noticed that. Well, I think that's what they were laughing at. But the laughter kept growing, and by the time we got to the final fight in Cyborg, the audience, they were in hysterics. They were just laughing there like they were watching a comedy. And I'm just sitting there realizing that this is not good for Jean-Claude, not good for the movie. And then I stuck around for they handed out survey sheets. And then, like I said, there's 100 people in the audience. They hand out sheets. So what did you think of the movie? How would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10? And basically, out of 100 people in the audience, one person liked the movie, which, so this is not my opinion. If one person likes the movie in this entire audience, this is not good. Fortunately, I didn't live far from Cannon, where they had the screening. I went home, and I had Jean-Claude's number in Thailand. I called him right away. And I said, Jean-Claude, you got to get on the next plane back to LA. You got to come back here immediately because your career is on the line. Whoa, what happened? I told him about the screening. I told him people were laughing at the final fight. I told him that one person liked the movie out of 100 people. This is not going to go well. But Canon already had posters made up. They already had trailers playing in theaters. This was already booked in theaters. So basically, time was of the essence. So Jean-Claude, you got to get back, and he did. He got on the next plane he could find, back to LA. Came back to LA, and I believe I might have met him at the airport. I'm not sure. All I know is when he got back, he and I just went marching into the Cannon building, and we went up there, and he talked with Yoram Globus. Yoram was Menachem's partner. And said, actually, before we did that, the first thing we did was he said, I want to see the movie. So we put it up on a flatbed chem. This is 35 millimeter film back then, so there's no video. You can't just put it on a recorder. So he sat down at the chem, watched the entire movie, and he was just livid when we got to the end of the movie.
Now, what was Jean-Claude livid about? Was it the audio, the sound of Fender, or was it just the overall movie?
Everything. You'd have to ask him what it was. I don't think he could remember the details because there were so many things wrong with the movie. The fights were not well cut.
It was almost like a replay of Bloodsport, the first cut. It just wasn't good in general.
Right. I couldn't tell you details. I can't remember the details. All I know is it was a mess. So he told Yoram, you've got to let me recut this movie. And I'll pay for it. Because it took money to do a recut on a movie. Basically, what had to be done, we had the movie was on 35 millimeter reels. It was cut together. It was cut and taped. Every cut was taped together. There was actually tape on it. So if you want to reconstitute this movie, you've got to go through and pull every piece of tape off and then tape everything back together. So there was no easy way. And then you've got to make what's called dirty dupes. You've got to make like black. Once you have it cut together, then you've got to make black and white duplicates of the movie so that you can do a sound mix to it, so you can cut sound. All of this had to be done, and it was expensive. And what I don't know if Jean-Claude really dipped into his pocket to pay for it, but that's what he said. He told Yoram, I'll pay for it myself. Okay. Anyways, they gave us the resources we needed. They gave us 2 editing rooms at Canon, and we brought in a couple of editors. One of them was Ruben Mazzini. That's the guy I met when I was cutting Firefight, who was cutting pornos for Mark DeSalle. Okay, Ruben Mazzini, he's a former Marine. He used to, when he'd see Jean-Claude, he would like snap to attention and say, "Sir." Jean-Claude loved that, by the way.
The other editor?
The other editor was a guy named Julian. And Julian I knew through an actress named Sheila Scott Wilkinson. And he was the boyfriend of Sheila's. And he was from Czech Republic. I believe he was from Prague. But he was an editor also. And basically we got these two guys hired. We had 2 rooms side by side. And we divided up the work. For the first thing that had to be done was they had to pull every single tape splice off and reconstitute the reels. So they were like pristine reels that came, like they were like camera originals.
Yeah.
I need a sip of water here.
Let me ask you this, maybe
Yeah,
Sheldon.
go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember watching something, maybe it was on YouTube or something along those lines, and there was like a really rough cut that somehow looped into YouTube in regards to Cyborg, and it was played with the background music being like heavy metal and all this stuff, and that was the original, like, I guess, direction the director wanted to go. Was that kind of what it looked like when you guys first saw it, or?
That was it. Yeah, that was Albert's cut.
Actually, that got released about 12 years ago.
Yeah, Albert basically he got the material and he somehow got it released on a DVD, I believe.
And they called it Slinger.
Which was
they put out a nice steel book and everything of it. Actually, the presentation was pretty good.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, so you're in Canon, you're editing. You're with one editor, Jean-Claude's in another editing booth with another editor.
Yeah.
And
the way we divided it up was that I would handle all the dialogue scenes, and Jean-Claude would handle all the fight scenes, which worked out pretty damn good. So I think Jean-Claude might have been with, Jean-Claude was with Ruben, and I was with Julian, and we just worked on this for weeks.
It took a couple weeks.
Huh? It took a few weeks.
Yeah.
This is not something that can be done overnight. Nowadays, you've got everything on video. Now,
as you go,
nowadays it'd be easy. You don't have to go in and take the tape splices off and all of that. And in fact, you would have the camera originals would be original. You would have all the original material, so you don't have to recut things. So this took some time, and I actually had to write a lot of new dialogue because the story itself simply did not make sense. So I wrote new dialogue to try and just make some sense out of the story. I gave it a whole different slant. And what I would do is, because we couldn't match and I ended up doing the ADR also, replacing all the voices. One of the first things I did was I got another actor to revoice the guy who played Fender.
Vincent Klein.
Vincent Klein.
And who did you get to revoice?
We got a guy named Branscombe Richmond, who had a perfect voice, and he was a good actor too. And even though his voice was perfect, I still added reverb to it when we did the mix.
Let me ask you this. I'm sorry. In regards to this Vincent Klein, right?
Vincent Klein.
He was in Point Break.
Yes.
Right.
What I remember in Point Break is that his voice sounded very similar to what it was in Fender. And when you had told me before in the past, a couple years ago about that, I didn't know that. Do you think that he had somebody?
I think they probably revoiced him
with the same guy. You think?
I don't know if it was the same guy, but
or maybe he tried to.
Well, Branscombe Richmond has had a pretty good career. He's been in a lot of movies. In fact, he fights Steven Seagal at the end of Above the Law.
Okay.
You know, he's the one that Steven Seagal breaks his neck over his back. He's had a very pretty good career.
He was a good actor too. He had a good voice, and so he did all of Fender's lines are by Branscombe Richmond.
Yeah, he's in a lot of TV shows, you know, from that time period. And anyway, so Sheldon, continue on. You're editing.
So it's a lot of stuff to change the story. I couldn't fit the new dialogue into the mouths of the actors that were on camera, so I ended up using over-the-shoulder shots. Basically, if it was dialogue, it was dialogue that Jean-Claude had, we wouldn't be on Jean-Claude's face, we'd be on somebody else's face, and he'd be off screen. His voice would be off screen, and that way I was able to redo pretty much all the dialogue in that film. And then I did I supervised the sound mix.
So where's Albert Payon during all this process?
I'd never met him at that point.
Did they give you any type of credit or a special thing?
No.
Nothing.
No.
You guys are hearing it now.
But then Sheldon's worked on a few Van Damme pictures of which you don't have a credit.
Correct.
Yeah, you know, this was not the first time.
Yeah. I did a lot of work on The Quest.
You were originally involved in Kickboxer. You don't have a credit there either.
Do you think that that's for your love of movies and just as much of parallel your friendship with Jean-Claude?
I have enough real credits.
And he trusts you in that sense.
Yeah.
I mean, he calls you,
I have enough good credits where I don't need to fight to get a credit on a low budget movie like Cyborg. Okay, if I've got co-writing credit with Stallone on Rambo 3, so why am I going to fight to get a credit on Cyborg?
Well, see, that's why I love you, Sheldon, because it's like most people want every
ounce of credit, right?
And you know, you're there for the greater good of the actual film and everything itself.
Right.
You know, so I have always appreciated that.
Well, like, you know, Frank Dukes has been creating problems for years, wanting to get a credit on Bloodsport, wanting to get a credit for writing Bloodsport. But he never wrote anything. You know, writing, according to the Writers Guild, writing means you actually sit down in front of a typewriter or a computer and you write and you hand in pages and they use those pages to shoot the movie.
Yeah.
Frank never did that. Okay, he was just a talker, not a writer.
Well, he had the ideas and the stories, and then they were handed over to yourself, for example, but you're the actual writer.
Well, I actually took the stories and turned them into I turned his crazy stories into a movie.
That's what I'm saying. He comes to you and tells you a story, and you type it,
but it was not even a story. What he was telling me was just, I did this, I did that.
Random things.
I fought this guy named Chong Li, and I'm the one who came up with the structure. There was a structure to Bloodsport, which is actually unusual because I hadn't seen that structure before. If it's a boxing movie, there's generally some story before the boxing match. There's some story afterwards. There's a lot going on besides just the boxing. What I did with Bloodsport was it's all about the kumite. It's all about the fights. It starts with guys leaving for the kumite. We see the kumite. We see Jean-Claude win the final match at the end. After that, he gets on a plane and he goes home. That's the end of the movie.
And you know what that is, right?
What's that?
That's Mortal Kombat. I mean, Mortal Kombat legitimately ripped.
Oh, really?
Bloodsport.
Yeah, but
the video game.
Video game. Right.
But to be fair, at the time of Bloodsport, there was no Mortal Kombat.
Of course.
Correct. There was no blood fight. There was no blood fist.
There was no UFC.
No, Bloodsport single-handedly revolutionized the whole genre.
Right.
It really did. If it wasn't for Bloodsport, Roger Corman would not have made
Blood Fist. Right.
With all those guys.
Right.
If it was not for Bloodsport, we would not have seen Blood Fight, and a whole bunch of other ones that just, you know, there's too many to remember.
I mean, it's something bigger than we can even fathom that's going on here. I mean, JC having part of all this. If there was no JC, I truly don't think there could be a Bloodsport. If there was no Sheldon, there'd be no Bloodsport. There was no Frank Duke. Like it's just crazy how
Fr-
all those
Frank
little
Dukes was just
pieces,
this guy spouting
you know,
stories about how great he was, and
and one was implanted into your brain that blew,
and
you know.
but that same Black Belt magazine, uh, they kind of bought into it. They didn't totally buy into it, but they
They
just
bought into it enough to print an article.
it's a good enough story for an article in Black Belt magazine. So they printed it in Black Belt, and that gave validity to Frank's story.
Well,
more than anything
because in
else.
the martial arts world, Black Belt magazine at the time was it was the bona fide. You know, if you were in Black Belt magazine, technically you were legit.
Right,
You know,
yeah,
but anyway, getting back to Cyborg. So you're doing an edit,
right.
and so you had the edit cut. You and Jean-Claude look at it. You both go, "This is good." Take us. What happened?
We didn't even. It wasn't even that precise. Basically, we were in there cutting scenes. We didn't even look at the whole movie. We basically were cutting scenes, and then I started doing the ADR, bringing in actors, sometimes using the actors that were actually in the movie, and sometimes hiring new people to do voices. So we were doing all these voices with the new dialogue. So all of this was ongoing, and then we did a sound mix, and the guy that I used to do the sound mix was the in-house sound mixer for Canon, a guy named Patrick Ciccone, who he and I hit it off really well. I ended up using Patrick on Double Impact also, and he's had a huge career doing mixes on gigantic studio movies ever since then. So I supervised all of that. And why was I doing all this? But first of all, I believed in Jean-Claude, and I knew that I was going to be. Jean-Claude kept saying, "Hey, you're going to be directing a movie for me," and that was the promise. And but I wasn't just going on that. I was actually wanting to help this guy, as I believed in him. I believed he could be a star, and I ended up helping him. And so we finally did take another. When I finally put everything together, we didn't do any tests. Basically, we put the movie together, and then the guys at Canon, Menachem and Yoram, decided, okay, let's get this thing out there. Because I don't know if they even took a look at it, because basically they already had it booked in the theaters. They already had posters.
But they did have to change the date.
Yes.
Now, my question for the poster. The poster, originally they had a cinema release date and a poster.
Right.
Before you and Jean-Claude go, we're going to recut this thing.
Right.
Was it the same poster that went out worldwide, Jean-Claude with the gun and and Fender and the bad guys at the bottom, or was it a different poster?
I never saw a different poster. And actually, I was actually at the photo shoot where Jean-Claude did that pose with the gun and all of that. As far as the chronology, all I know is we were working on it basically, 6 days a week, and finally got it all done, put it all together. And I brought another thing that I did was Albert had some weird music in his cut. I brought in a guy, a friend of mine named Kevin Bassenson, and Kevin had done the music for my little film Firefight. And so I got Kevin to do a completely new score. Now, the posters, if you look at any Cyborg poster, it's not going to have Kevin's name on it, because that was the original poster that had the other guy, the guy who did the music for Albert. That's whose name is on the poster.
Well, they probably had a contract with him and they had to leave his name
They
on
just
there.
didn't, knowing Canon, they just didn't want to spend the money.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, we've already got all these posters, we got them printed up. We're not going to print up more posters.
So now we're in late 88.
Mhm.
This is late 88. Jean-Claude's next movie is Death Warrant,
Right.
which finishes up his 3-picture contract with Canon.
Mhm.
Were you involved in Death Warrant?
No, I visited the set a few times.
Right, but you weren't actively involved as a writer.
No.
So now at this point, Death Warrant is shooting.
Mhm.
It's in pre-production. We're in 89. It's in pre-production. It goes into production. It goes into post-production. At what point in all that, because as we know, Jean-Claude's next movie is this bona fide hit.
Right. Lionheart and Double Impact.
So take us through the timeline of because you and Jean-Claude had originally talked about, the Hard Times movie with Charles Bronson, so that's floating around in your guys'.
Then I brought the Foreign Legion into it
Right.
also.
Yes, but that's floating around, brewing in your heads.
Mm-hmm.
At what point and how does it unfold where either you go back to Jean-Claude or Jean-Claude comes to you and goes, okay, how does everything unfold from there that becomes Lionheart?
Well, Jean-Claude had a deal with Sunil Shah, okay, and Sunil,
which is Imperial
Entertainment, and they're the ones that made and released Black Eagle. Okay, so Jean-Claude had made a deal with. He basically came up with this idea of Wrong Bet, and they got Eric Carson was supposed to direct Wrong Bet originally. Jean-Claude went to Menachem and Yoram, and he told, according to him, he got down on his knees and begged Menachem to let me direct the movie.
Direct which movie?
Lionheart.
Why would he be begging Menachem when Menachem, it's not a canon movie, Lionheart?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sunil Shah.
Sunil Shah.
All right.
Well, isn't there the story that where he had to show your movie Firefight, and that was the convincing part, where whoever was in charge said, boom, okay.
Yeah, well, I showed Firefight. We also showed it to Menachem.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit here now, because that part has to come out. Where Sheldon's talking about Menachem, it's Sunil Shah. So
hold on, let me shut this door then too, because I can hear something from it.
Really? Yeah, you've got good hearing.
Okay, so
now we'll know where to cut.
Yeah,
So we'll just go right into
so action. So at what point does either you approach Jean-Claude or Jean-Claude approaches you, however it goes down, but it becomes Lionheart? Take us through that. Keep in mind it's sometime around Death Warrant, I'm guessing, because they're lining up Jean-Claude wants another picture.
Right.
So how does that unfold?
Jean-Claude, I believe, got introduced to Sunil Shah by Shimon Arama,
which was Black Eagle.
Who Shimon produced Black Eagle, and then they were going to do Red Fox. I believe I talked about Red Fox already. That was another Shimon Arama production, and I believe that Bloodsport had come out by this point.
Oh yeah, Bloodsport came out February 25th, 88. And the reason Jean-Claude could go into canon for Cyborg and say, listen, I want to do a recut, was because he was kind of a big deal, because Bloodsport was doing very well.
He was becoming a big deal.
Right.
Yeah. But then he made a deal with Sunil Shah. So Sunil Shah wanted to do a movie with Jean-Claude. Jean-Claude had this idea, Wrong Bet. They got, I liked the idea, but I didn't want to work on it or write it unless I got credit on it and got paid something. So they got this woman who's a friend of Eric Carson's. I'm blanking on her name right now, but she did a little treatment for Wrong Bet. Her name is actually on the Stephanie somethings. I forgot her last name.
Yeah, I know the name.
Stephanie Warren. That's her name. So she did a short treatment. As I recall, it was like 5 pages long. And she was a friend of Eric Carson's. So they hired her to write the screenplay. So she wrote the very first screenplay for what became Lionheart. And it was not very good. In fact, the only thing that I liked about it, the only thing anybody liked about it, she's got a character that names Jean-Claude Lionheart. She came up with the name Lionheart, not as a title, but basically for him as a fighter.
Or Leon.
Huh?
Leon, or Lionheart. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but the Leon is that's a name that I came up with. But she came up with Lionheart. So that's about it. But then everybody hated the script. And so Jean-Claude tells him, okay.
Hated the script or the treatment? Because we're at
she wrote a whole script also.
Oh, she wrote a whole script also.
She wrote a treatment, and then she wrote a script that she got paid for.
And now, are you involved at this point, or does Jean-Claude pull you in?
I was not involved at this point, and I believe
So you were unaware there's a treatment and a script.
I was aware. I'd seen.
You were aware, okay.
Because Jean-Claude wanted me to write that treatment.
All right.
I wanted me to write the script, but unless I had a deal, I wasn't just going to write something and have them do whatever they wanted with that without giving me credit, without paying me. So I knew about it. I read it, and I didn't like it. Nobody liked it. And at this point, Jean-Claude was able to tell them, why don't you hire Sheldon to write a new version of the script? He co-wrote Rambo 3. Okay, this is somebody who's, the fact that I had co-written Rambo 3 made a big, big difference for me. That's what really got me going.
Well, it is a big deal.
It was a big deal at the time.
Sylvester Stallone at that point was the highest paid actor in the world.
He was the biggest, he was the biggest star in the world at the time, and I felt very privileged to be working with him. So, but that helped. See, Bloodsport, people think that Bloodsport got my career going. It did not. It was Rambo 3. It was all about Rambo 3. The fact that I was co-writing with Stallone, that's what really gave me a real boost for my career. And that's what made the difference with Sunil also. Like, okay, who's this girl, Stephanie, who wrote this terrible screenplay? Let's throw that out. Why don't you hire the guy who co-wrote Rambo 3? So they did. So I got hired to write the screenplay for Lionheart, which I did. And then Jean-Claude was begging Sunil. He said to me a few times, I got down on my knees and I begged Sunil, please let Sheldon direct the movie.
He told me that story too.
Yeah. Because originally they wanted Eric Carson to direct the movie. Now Eric had some pretty solid directing credits. He directed The Octagon. He directed Black. Huh? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a good movie, by the way. It's a good movie.
And he directed Black Eagle for Sunil Shah.
And he would later go on to direct Angel Town with Olivia Gruner, his first,
which was also Imperial Entertainment.
Imperial Entertainment,
yeah,
correct.
So they liked Eric Carson quite a bit and wanted him to direct the movie. But Jean-Claude was able to convince them to give me a shot, and Eric would be a producer. So Eric would be there.
And the doctor.
Huh? That came later. Yeah. But Eric would be there the entire time to keep an eye on me, and he'd be there just if I was really screwing up. Eric could they could fire me, and Eric could step in and take over the directing the movie. So that's basically how that worked.
Now, while all this is going on, you're writing. So there's an original treatment by Stephanie and an original script. Nobody likes it.
Right.
Jean-Claude gets you the gig of writing it.
Right.
All during this writing process, I'm sure you're writing, knowing how you work. You're writing for a while. That's not a 24-hour gig.
Well, there were plenty of other projects that I was working on at the same time.
So what is Jean-Claude doing while you're writing? Is he working with you? Is he throwing ideas at you? Or is he just like, Sheldon, come back to me with a script?
We got together once in a while to discuss some ideas. It's funny. I did this commentary yesterday on Lionheart, and I remember that the fight with all the cars surrounding the fighters and the Scottish fighter and all of that. That was Jean-Claude's idea, to have a fight in a warehouse surrounded by cars. I thought that was a terrific idea too, and he's the one that came up with having the fighter be a Scottish guy wearing kilts. Okay, that was not my idea. It was Jean-Claude. So basically, there were ideas that we were discussing that I put into the script that came from Jean-Claude. Like another one was, they asked me the other day, what about that white cat that Attila is petting? That was Jean-Claude's idea.
I like that.
Yeah, and basically we stole that from James Bond.
Those
okay,
nuances are memorable.
Right, right.
You remember them.
Yeah, yeah.
He walks up and just taps that little cat.
Now, when you wrote the script and you have the character of Attila, who's played by Abdel Kisi,
right,
who of course is a new Jean-Claude from when he was a kid. He's a brother of Tom Paul Mohammed Kisi. Yeah. So they all knew each other very well. Jean-Claude, Mohammed, Abdel.
Yeah, these guys, they kind of grew up together.
So you write the script of this fight scene at the end, but do you describe the character and then Jean-Claude goes, I got the perfect guy, it's Abdel Kizzi, or is it just written loosely, there's a fight at the end, and then Jean-Claude goes, I want Abdel Kizzi, and then maybe you fine-tune it?
Yeah, it was written loosely.
Right.
We didn't have every single punch in the script. But there was some.
No, but did you know you were writing a fight for Abdel Kizzi?
For his character.
No.
His character and his frame.
No,
and
not originally. I'm the one who came up with the name Attila for him, which worked out pretty well. And then, Jean-Claude is the one who brought Abdel over from Morocco, and we put him in the movie. And then we used Abdel a few more times. We used Abdel in The Quest.
Used him in the
Order.
And he's great in them all.
He's great in everything.
He's great
absolutely.
in everything.
Let me ask you this, Sheldon. In regards to when you tell the stories, legendary stories about holding auditions,
right?
How many people would you say showed up in regards to wanting to audition for these fighters? And then how many days did it take to really level it out who you were going to bring into the film?
Well, we had a sign-in sheet, okay, a numbered sign-in sheet. So I know for sure we had 1,000 fighters come in. Okay, 1,000. Basically, we put the ad in the drama log, and I don't know if we put an ad anywhere else. I know drama log had an ad, and all these people showed up.
Now, did each one get to come in and show their stuff, or did somebody go out and go, you, come in?
No,
they all got their shot.
They all came to Frank Dukes' dojo in North Hollywood. And I had an assistant at the time, Stephanie Golden Falcon, and she was helping us. I forgot who else. We had some people helping us get folks signed in, and then we would pull them aside. When we were ready to test somebody, we'd pull them aside. And they got auditioned basically by Michelle Kizzi and Frank Dukes.
So Jean-Claude was not there, or did he ever show up?
Jean-Claude showed up once we narrowed it down to like, I don't know, like 20 guys, I believe. Yeah. But otherwise it was just Michelle and Frank Dukes and me, and I was just kind of hovering around supervising, but basically Frank and Michelle were the ones who knew fighting, and all of these fighters would actually get face to face with Michelle Kizzi, and they'd be throwing some punches and kicks.
Was there any contact or anything made?
I don't recall. Might have been, but we had quite a few people there.
I believe. Mohammed will confirm this. It was basically just moving around, just to see their motion and what they were capable of. Yeah, they were correct.
It was just sparring, because even in sparring, a guy like Michelle can see if somebody's really.
You can see you can see his movement. Yes.
Timing, you see movement.
And we had an interesting group there. We like Billy Blanks was one of them. Billy Blanks had never been in a movie before. This is pre-Tybo.
Yeah.
He was just some guy wanting to be in a movie.
But he was at that point a 7-time world karate champion. He was not just some guy.
Yeah.
Right.
He was a little bit beyond your average guy.
Actually, but we had a few people like that come in. People who were
Who stood out? I mean, when you think about, take yourself back to one or two of those days. I mean, who really stood out in your mind, Sheldon, to where you're like, that guy is going to?
We narrowed it down to, I believe there might have been 20 or so, maybe even more, but we narrowed it down. We basically got a lot of these people. We just rejected them right away. Frank had a good way of getting rid of them. Like, okay, he's from Category 9. All right, and the Category 9 meant we don't want to see this guy again. But we had there was one guy, I'm forgetting his name now, but he was Stallone's stunt double in the Rambo movies, and he's
Harold Diamond.
No, it wasn't Harold Diamond. It was another guy.
I do know his name, but it won't come to me. But yes, I know who you mean.
But you see him fighting in the movie, and he looks kind of like Stallone in Rocky. Yeah, we had a few kind of prominent people. They weren't all like complete unknowns.
Now, was Abdel there or no?
What's that?
Did Abdel Kisi, did he
No,
go to that? Or
no. Abdel came in. He was like a special hire.
I believe he was handpicked by
He
Jean-Claude.
was handpicked by
Yes,
Jean-Claude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So when do you start shooting this movie? Like, at what point in time do you shoot? How long is your shoot? How was the shoot? Because I believe there were a couple of times some people had a little attitude, because you were a first-time director, and Jean-Claude pretty much said it straight. Take us through those moments.
Right. Well, the best example of that, the director of photography that I'd picked, turned out to be a pain in the ass. He just assumed he knew a lot more than me. Maybe he did at the time. He probably did. This is my first feature film, but it's not like, I'd actually been to film school. I went to AFI. I made a little film while I was at AFI. I made that little film, Firefight. Okay, so it's not like I've never done this before. But still, the DP was somebody who had a lot of TV experience. He would want to set shots up. But I'm a photographer. I was a cinematography fellow at American Film Institute, and basically I know how to set up a shot. And I set up just about every shot. Well, every shot in Lionheart I set up, simply because this guy Bob New just had a different perspective. His eye was not like mine, and I didn't like the way he was setting things up, because I would set things up sometimes, and he'd say, "Well, let's try this." He'd move the camera and say, "Here, look, I think this will work better." And just about every case, I'd say, "No, Bob, put the camera back where I had it." Okay. Now, one great example of this was the fight with Jeff Langton, where Jean-Claude gives Jeff one single punch to the nuts. Okay. I set it up.
Who came up with that idea? Was that JC?
It was JC.
Yeah, I love that.
Because actually Frank and Michelle had choreographed kind of a long fight between them. And Jean-Claude just on the day just decided, no, I don't want to do all that stuff. Look, what if I give him one punch in the nuts and he falls over?
It's just so great because it's not anything you're expecting.
No.
You're expecting his first fight that he's
Right.
Well, it doesn't take anything away from Jeff's character, because Jeff has a good fight right before it.
Right before, yeah.
With a gent, Sasha Williams, right?
Right.
Who passed away.
And that was set up by Frank and Michelle.
And they did a good job giving Jeff a little bit of time to shine.
Right.
You really, within that small time period, you hate that character.
Yeah.
You love to hate that character.
And you could see he was a real fighter too.
Was that set up because Jean-Claude had changed and said, "I just want to do this with Jeff"? So the other guys went, "Okay, well, let's give Jeff a little more beforehand, otherwise..."
No.
That's just how it worked.
Jeff was going to have that fight beforehand, and then there was going to be a big, long fight with Jean-Claude. And Jean-Claude just said, I don't want to do all this stuff. Let's just do one punch.
And it's smart. It moves the story right on where it needs to be.
It worked great.
Yeah.
See, he would come up with ideas like that, and generally, if it was a good idea, I'd say, sure, let's go with it. I didn't have any ego issues where I'm not going to let this guy walk all over me and tell me how we're going to do this fight scene. It's a good idea. Let's fucking do it. Okay, so
take us back to the DP.
Yeah,
so setting up shots.
I'm setting up the shot, and basically I said, okay, for the punch to the nuts, it's going to be a wide angle lens. I picked the lens, and it's going to be a low angle, and we're going to have the camera right here, and then the DP comes over to me and he says, "Why don't we try it this way?" And he had a completely different kind of. It was like a medium shot from a side angle, and you really couldn't see. You couldn't see the action as well. I had it set up so you could perfectly see Jean-Claude punching the guy and then the guy falling over, grabbing his nuts. And anyway, he was fighting me on that. He said, "No, I don't think this is the right shot." And what's funny is that Lawrence Bender was in the scene.
Yeah.
He was playing the heckler, the New York City heckler. So he was there watching this confrontation, and Jean-Claude's watching it. And finally, Jean-Claude just says, "Put the fucking camera where Sheldon said to put it." Okay, and yeah, Lawrence was quite happy to hear that too. And it's a great shot. Yeah,
Yes, it's perfect.
yeah. There's no better way to do it.
Jeff gave a great reaction. Everything
Right.
is great about it. Yeah.
Right.
You can feel it.
Right.
You know, his little whine and everything.
Yeah. How long were you in there for shooting those two fights?
I'd say we were in that building for maybe 2 days.
2 days.
Where is that building?
On Ventura Boulevard in Encino.
And it's still the same.
What's that?
That parking lot's still the same today.
It's still
We'll
there.
have to go over there. Me and you will have that fight scene.
No, there,
You'll watch me
Yeah.
nuts.
so there's another scene we were doing. It's Jean-Claude and Harrison Page walking down the city streets in downtown LA. So I wanted to use a medium lens. I wanted to start on the buildings in the background and then tilt down. And here we see Jean-Claude and Harrison walking towards the camera, having some dialogue. So the DP says, "Why do you want to show those buildings?" Well, it kind of establishes where they are. You know, it's the environment we see there in downtown LA. And basically, we're not faking it. We're not just it's not a shot of buildings and then a shot of them. It's actually tilting down. We actually see. It's basically a tie-in. We see they really are in downtown LA. And he just kept pressing me on that. You know, like, "Oh, wow, I don't see why you want to see those buildings." And finally, I just said, "Bob, I want to see the fucking buildings. That's the way we're shooting it." And I just finally got tired of the guy. And he's not a great DP. His lighting was good, actually. That's why I picked him. Boy, that was the worst, probably the worst experience I've ever had with the director of photography. Just because, he was such a know-it-all. And his career is not really gone anywhere. He just did a lot of TV stuff up in Canada.
Let me ask you this, Sheldon. And maybe it's just the way you guys set it up, and maybe I'm just maybe I'm wrong. It seemed like for instance, when let's say JC's having his little interaction with Nicole, and then you have the residents in the buildings looking out the windows. Were they really residents looking out the windows, or did you guys place them there?
You know what? No, they when I did that commentary yesterday, the guy who was doing the commentary said, did you place those guys, those people looking out the windows? I said, no. In fact, let me see that again. I didn't realize we had people looking out the windows.
Yeah, there's a lot of people looking out, especially in that scene.
When I was younger, I'm like, I bet you those are real.
They were real people just watching the scene.
Yeah.
Now, we had something similar in Jerusalem with The Order. We're in the old city of Jerusalem. You know, this is a very contentious place, and we actually had this fight on the rooftops. Jean-Claude and Abdel Kissi are having a fight, and the one thing that everybody in Israel agrees on, they're all Van Damme fans. Okay, the Jews and the Muslims, they're all Van Damme fans. So they were just nuts that hey, there's Jean-Claude Van Damme shooting a movie right in the middle of Jerusalem. So we had our assistant directors, before we ran the camera, they would tell in Hebrew and in Arabic, "Okay, everybody please duck down so that we don't see you, because you're going to ruin our shot if we see you standing up there." And they cooperated. Everybody ducked down. And so we'd shoot some fight moves with Jean-Claude and Abdel. I'd say cut. As soon as I said cut, you see like 500 heads pop up. So they were actually helping us. They were actually being cooperative.
Van Damme can bring it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So what was your shoot for Lionheart?
It was about 40 days.
40 days.
Yeah.
So now you have this movie shot.
Mm-hmm.
Does it take you back kind of to the same where you were with Bloodsport? Obviously at this point Van Damme is a is a star.
He was becoming, he was a B movie
But
star.
did you anticipate the success and where Lionheart is about to go with the studio? And of course, you're going to take us there. Was any of that anticipated, or was that like another wow moment?
It was a complete surprise to everybody that we actually got a studio release with Universal. And I owe a lot of that to Sam Raimi. I had introduced Sam to Jean-Claude months earlier, and Sam was a fan of his right away. Actually, Sam ended up using him in like 2 or 3 movies. Hard Target with Sam Raimi, and Time Cop with Sam Raimi.
Correct.
And so Sam, actually, it's funny, when we did when we had that first screening of Bloodsport in Hollywood, I invite Sam to it. And Sam just wanted to be right in the midst of the action. And so he basically got a seat right between me and Frank Dukes, okay, and watched the movie there. And he loved the movie. So he became a fan of Jean-Claude's way back then. So Sam had some people in high places at Universal that were fans of his. And he was the one who recommended to Jim Jacks that he come see. We put together what would be called a sizzle reel. We put together just some of the best scenes from the movie. Like, it was like 20 minutes long, some of the fight scenes.
So you're still editing it at this point?
No, we're done editing, but we haven't done the final sound mix and any of that stuff.
So the music wasn't in.
Music was not in. No, we had temp music. Sam gets Jim Jacks, who is a executive at Universal, to he just quietly invited him, come take a look at this sizzle reel. And so Jim comes there, and Jim ended up becoming kind of a big deal producer. He produced the Mummy movies. He produced a bunch of stuff at Universal. Unfortunately, he died prematurely a few years ago. So Jim sees this movie and sees Jean-Claude, and he tells the higher-ups at Universal, maybe we should pick this up for distribution. And so Sunil, nobody was expecting it. So Sunil and Ash, they get dressed up in suits. They're very nervous, like, oh shit, we're going to Universal. They want to meet with us about our movie. And Universal ended up picking it up. And
that's the first Van Damme movie that got distributed
by a
major studio.
Right, yeah. And actually,
Go ahead, Sheldon.
I was battling with Sunil the whole time over the title, because Sunil didn't like the title Lionheart, because there was another movie called Lionheart. And Sunil figured, well, that's going to steal our thunder in the video stores. People ask for Lionheart and they get the wrong version of Lionheart. Anyways, he wanted a different title. None of us liked Wrong Bet, although that actually was the title in a few countries. I was pretty adamant about Lionheart, and Sunil was pretty adamant about not using Lionheart or Wrong Bet. So we had a little contest. I suggested the contest, like, why don't we have a contest here just with the people here at Imperial Entertainment, and let's come up with some ideas for titles, all right? So I'm the one who came up with AWOL, all right? Sunil liked AWOL for one reason. It's because it has the letter A, and so it'll be the first title in the catalog. It'll be right up front in the catalog. That's why he liked AWOL. And AWOL ended up being the movie and the title in England. And
now, what was your budget? Because when we look here at a breakdown,
yeah,
we get a breakdown of them all, but you can see that Van Damme's career is on a very steady up. Cyborg 9.3 million, Bloodsport 10.8. Now, this was at the time of the short. This is street date, July the 25th, 91. Lionheart is at 22.5 million.
That's a 91.
Wait, but is that supposed? Yeah, that's actually what it made in the theaters.
That's what I'm saying. So,
right,
what was your budget on it?
Well,
because clearly it's a huge success.
We never really knew. Sunil, most producers are cagey about this kind of stuff. They're not going to tell you what the budget is. They give you too big of a number. Well, then you start asking for all kinds of stuff that they can't afford. You give them better just keep the number small. It might have been around 5 million. It might have been a little less. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it's still at 91 at 1991 it's at 22.5. So for whatever it's made for, which was obviously somewhere between maybe 2 and probably 5 or less,
Right.
that's a huge
I think
profit.
$100 million.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That made that made the company Imperial Entertainment. And Imperial, after Lionheart, they just totally fucked up. They just kept making the wrong decisions. They made Double Dragon, that was Imperial, and actually Mark Dacascos was in that. But the movie was a complete mess. They had a very inexperienced producer, inexperienced director who was a video basically did music videos. I don't think I've ever seen the movie, quite honestly, but I hear it's terrible. It made no money, and it kind of screwed us up for Only the Strong, also because 20th Century Fox was very high on Only the Strong, and they wanted to put it out there in a lot of theaters. And the Double Dragon ended up stealing our thunder, getting in the way.
So we're at Lionheart. Lionheart's release is doing very well. Your next movie is
Double Impact.
what becomes Double Impact.
Right.
Talk to us about how Double Impact came about, going back from the Canon days.
Right. Well, actually, it originated at Canon because once Bloodsport started doing well, that's when Menachem called Jean-Claude back to Canon. I'm not sure. I can't remember if he just pantomimed holding up the contract, but Van Damme, we have a 3-picture deal, and so basically Jean-Claude did owe them another movie, and he brought me along with him to find a project to do at Canon that I would be directing. So we're in Menachem's office, and he's got like 100 screenplays on the wall there, and shelves, and they all have the titles written on the spines with a marker. So we're sitting in there talking, and one title catches my eye, and that's the Corsican Brothers. And so I say, "Hey, Menachem, what's the Corsican Brothers?" "That's a perfect project for Van Damme. Karen, bring me Corsican Brothers." So I read Corsican Brothers and talked to Jean-Claude about it, and we both agreed, hey, this is a really cool idea to be playing twin brothers. So we were actually moving forward with that at Canon. We did a photo shoot. I even got the Polaroids from that photo shoot that I've put online before, and it was going to take place in Corsica and Paris. And we had a poster that we made. You saw the Polaroids. They made a really nice poster with the two Jean-Claudes. One was dressed like a Corsican peasant with this sheepskin vest on. That was the Alex, what became the Alex character. And the other one is in a suit with a high-tech pistol, looking kind of like James Bond. So it was a cool poster. You know what? I regret the fact that I did not make a copy of that, so I don't have a copy of it. But it looked really cool, and I was supposed to direct it. It had my name there as director. Then Canon ran into financial difficulties, which they didn't tell us about. But actually before that, I'm kind of skipping ahead. They actually sent us to Corsica and Paris to do some scouting.
Wow.
Yeah. What are the timeline are we? What year are we here? This is before Lionheart. This is way before, right?
No, this is after
This is
Lionheart.
after. So okay. So all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, by this point, I proved that I could direct a feature film, and not only that, but we made this film for Sunil Shah, and Universal picked it up. So I had some credibility now, and Jean-Claude had even more credibility. Canon decided not to make the movie because they didn't. Basically they were out of money and they were being bought by Pathé. They were being bought by there was a Italian mafia guy that actually bought the company. I'm forgetting his name right now, but uh, but they did hire me to write the script. So we had a script, and then
Now, was the script written? Is the script that you wrote? It's not the double impact that we're watching.
it was called The Corsican
It's called the
Brothers.
Corsican Brothers.
I still have a copy of it, and the two brothers were Carlo and Marco. It took place in Corsica and Paris, contemporary. So we were moving full speed ahead with it. And then Menachem calls me into his office one day and he says, we're not making Corsican Brothers. Why not, Menachem? Everything was kind of moving forward nicely. And he says, Van Damme can't play one character. How do you expect him to play two?
So he was audacity to say that?
Huh? He said that to me, yeah.
So he was really saying that because the truth, he was trying to hide the fact from you that they had, the reason it was they didn't have the money.
They didn't have the money, right.
Because Van Damme had made him a lot of money at this point.
Yeah.
Because Bloodsport, Cyborg, and Deathborn had been released.
Right.
And they were hugely profitable.
Right.
So Van Damme's not poison anymore.
Right. So
Menachem said.
Yeah. So Canon was basically they spent themselves into near bankruptcy, and the guy who bought the company was an Italian named Giancarlo Peretti, and Peretti also bought MGM, and he bought MGM, Canon, and Pathé, and he kind of folded Canon into Pathé. Anyways, things fell apart simply because they had no money anymore. So now Jean-Claude really loved the script, loved the concept, and so he had some meetings with Moshe Diamant. Moshe Diamant had money. Moshe Diamant had a company. He combined resources with Michael Douglas, and the two companies combined, and they called their company Stone Group. And they were making two movies. One was going to be with Brian Bosworth, called Stone Cold. They had that one all set up. And then the second movie was going to be with Jean-Claude. And they had no script. They had a script actually called Night of the Leopard. And I actually, they actually talked to me about doing a rewrite on Night of the Leopard. I'm not sure if they talked to me about directing it, but they did. I met with the writer. We had a number of meetings, but we never got around to doing an actual rewrite because they lost the rights. Somehow there was a big mess with the rights to Night of the Leopard. The rights relapsed back, and now they couldn't do Night of the Leopard. So now Jean-Claude had to deal with Moshe Diamant, and like I said, he had money. So they needed a script, and Jean-Claude says to me, what about Corsican Brothers? And what was happening parallel to all this was I had written a draft of, it was Missing in Action. No, Delta Force. I wrote a draft. It was supposed to be Delta Force 2. They actually sent me to Israel. I hooked up with, I met with Chuck Norris. Then I went to Israel. I hooked up with Aaron Norris, Chuck's brother, who was directing the movie. They already had a crew over there. They had people waiting to shoot Delta Force 2. And so I did a draft for them.
Delta Force 2 or Delta Force 3?
It was 2 at the time.
2 at the time.
But it ended up, the script that I wrote ended up being Delta Force 3, which was the Americans and the Russians working together. All right? So the Delta Force 2 ended up being the one that takes place in South America, and that's the one where they had the horrible accident, the helicopter accident that killed a few people. Right. So, anyways, they didn't pay me for finishing the script, the Delta Force 2 script, and I was not happy about this, and I would call them, and they wouldn't return my calls. And so I ended up getting an attorney to sue them. This is the only time I've ever sued anybody in the movie business. Okay, I sued Canon. I've still got all the paperwork at home. I sued them. Basically, just pay me my money, guys, and I'll drop the lawsuit. And that got stretched out for a while. And then Jean-Claude comes to me and says, hey, we lost Night of the Leopard. What's going on with that Corsican Brothers script? And I told him, I'm suing Canon. And if the lawsuit works out for me, maybe I can get the script from them. We didn't know. But basically, Canon then came to me because they realized they couldn't afford to pay anything. They had no money. So they came to me and they said, we'll make a deal with you. You drop the lawsuit and we will give you the rights to that Corsican Brothers script that you wrote for us. I called Jean-Claude and like, hey, guess what? They want to settle with me. They're going to give me the Corsican Brothers script. Are you sure about that? Yeah, I'm having a meeting there this afternoon. So I go there, and Jean-Claude was already telling Moshe Diamant, hey, I think we're going to get that Corsican Brothers script. And I think Moshe liked the idea from the very beginning. So we set up a meeting. I'm going to go to Moshe's house. Well, first I went to Canon. In the afternoon, I went to Canon. I got the paperwork. I signed my part of the paperwork. They signed theirs. So I've got a piece of paper now that says, I own the Corsican Brothers script. I called Jean-Claude. Hey, I got the paperwork. Okay, we're going to meet at Moshe's tonight. So I go to.
That fast.
It was that fast.
Nice.
The ink was not dry on the contract.
The ink dried from the wind of the speed of Sheldon driving to the meeting with Moshe.
Right.
Let's make this
Exactly. Yeah. So so I go to Moshe's house, and his attorney's there. Jean-Claude's there. I give him the paperwork. The attorney looks over the paperwork. Yeah, this is all legitimate. And right there we had the Corsican Brothers.
Double Impact.
Which we turned into double. They didn't like the title Corsican Brothers, and Jean-Claude and I agreed. And Jean-Claude's the one who came up with Double Impact.
That's a great title.
Well, and that came from our fights in Lionheart, where basically we would double cut a punch. That's what would be boom, boom, and we ended up calling those double impacts. So Jean-Claude, we liked that name, and Jean-Claude said, "Hey, why don't we call it the Double Impact?" Great idea.
See how things just come together.
Right.
It's beautiful how things come together.
All the dots connected, all the stars align. All right, so anyway, so that takes.
So this was when? This is sometime around summer of 1990.
Yeah, you're better at the dates than me.
Well, because Double Impact started shooting in late 1990.
Okay.
So I'm sure it's the summer of 90. How long did you work on the? So you have the rights. Did you work off the Corsican Brothers original script? And did that influence Double Impact script much, or you just start from scratch with the idea of two twins?
No. We basically I rewrote once it was decided that we were going to shoot in Hong Kong, because
why was it decided Hong Kong?
Because Charlie Wang was he had production services company, and Jean-Claude had worked with Charlie Wang on Bloodsport. All right, Charlie supplied the production services for Bloodsport.
Salon Films.
And so he was in touch with Jean-Claude, and hey, Jean-Claude, you got something else we can shoot here in Hong Kong, because we can supply cameras and locations and all of that.
Yeah.
So Jean-Claude tells Moshe, hey, Salon Films would like to do this movie in Hong Kong, and they will supply a lot of the below the line and the stuff we need.
And Jean-Claude has a love for
Hong Kong
because his first hit was made in Hong Kong.
Right.
Yeah. You're back in the action over there.
So you write this script, and
I rewrote it for Hong Kong.
You rewrote it for Hong Kong.
Before that, the first, I actually they sent me over to Hong Kong to see Hong Kong.
With Frank Dukes,
With
right?
Frank Dukes, right. Because Frank was saying, hey, nobody knows Hong Kong like I do. You should bring me along. I think Jean-Claude and I both decided, let's bring Frank, because I'd never been to Hong Kong. Frank knows Hong Kong. He was there for Bloodsport. So let's go. I'll go with Frank.
So it's you and Frank. Is Jean-Claude in Hong Kong at this
point? No,
he's here.
Just me and Frank went over there. And we hooked up with Charlie Wang. And so I looked at some locations. And Frank Dukes was being a complete pain in the ass. He just didn't like the fact that I had superseded him, and now I was directing this movie, and people were treating me like royalty, and Frank felt that he deserved the same kind of treatment. So what this came down to was Frank saying, "Hey, why does Sheldon have a bigger hotel suite than me?" First of all, I didn't. It was the exact same size, and I think, as I recall, we even measured it. Like somebody brought along a tape measure, and we measured it. And like Frank, it's the same size room. Okay, so, but he was complaining to the production company back in LA. And he was complaining about, well, I've got cockroaches in my room. Nothing but whining about stuff constantly. And I told him, Frank, you've got to stop this whining, because it's getting back to the producers back in LA, and they're not liking it, and you're going to get kicked off this movie. So so stop the bitching, all right? But he didn't stop the bitching. So eventually it was just decided, and Jean-Claude also was getting wind of this, and we just decided we really don't need Frank Dukes on this movie. See, Frank would have had, he would have been the fight choreographer on Double Impact, and who knows, might have even been like a stunt coordinator.
Who ended up doing the fight choreography?
We had some local, some really good people in Hong Kong. This guy Johnny Chung was one of the actors he was in Bloodsport and in Double Impact, and then they hired Vic Armstrong to be the stunt coordinator. Well, you don't get much higher than Vic as far as stunt coordinator, so we didn't need Frank Dukes at all, and so Frank got left behind, and it would have been a real feather in his cap if he just kept his mouth shut and didn't complain. You look, open your mouth, give us ideas. Oh, and then he kept saying, well, the only reason you guys have got me on board is because you want to steal ideas from me. Well, no, we don't want to steal ideas from you. We expect you to contribute some ideas because you're the Hong Kong expert, right? So come up with some ideas, and it's okay for us to use them because you're being paid. So, but he still felt we were stealing ideas from him.
We're waiting for you to bring out that Kumite tape.
Right, yeah. Maybe we can find. Maybe we'll find the Kumite tape somewhere here in Hong Kong. Right.
Oh, so you go to Hong Kong with Frank. You come back here. You meet with Jean-Claude. What takes place?
Frank's off the project at that point. Well, then
you've done your location scouting. You kind of have at least at the very.
It was
a rough idea.
A very rough scout. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to go back later to do a more detailed scout, but again, we had the same issue. The producers were nervous about me directing the movie, but by this point, I'd done Lionheart, okay, and it got picked up by Universal. So shut the fuck up, guys. Okay. But even so, they were still, just because this was a really big production. Lionheart was a very small production by comparison, and this is really huge. I believe the budget was $20 million. We ended up having 3 units on this movie. We had a first unit and a second unit. Vic ran the second unit. And then Vic's brother Andy Armstrong was there also, and we set up a third unit because there really was a lot to shoot. So they were nervous about me handling all of this. But even so, Jean-Claude convinced them that...
now, who was it that was concerned? Was it Moshe?
Yeah, Moshe.
So Jean-Claude again stepped in and said, listen, here's the deal.
Jean-Claude was definitely...
he convinced Moshe, Sheldon can do this.
Right, yeah.
So you end up in Hong Kong,
And they hired a lot of really good people on it also. I didn't have that same DP from Lionheart. I had Richard Klein, who was a Oscar-nominated cinematographer. We had Vic Armstrong.
well, Jean-Claude's career is getting bigger, so the talent around him is getting better.
Correct,
The
yeah.
crews are getting bigger.
Well,
Everything's
this is
bigger.
Michael Douglas's company, and Michael and he had a number of people working for him who had a lot of contacts with some major Hollywood players. So we were getting, look, Richard Klein. Well, that was a real coup getting Richard Klein to be our cinematographer.
Yeah.
So take us through the shooting in Hong Kong before you get back here. How was the shooting there? How long were you shooting for in Hong Kong? What obstacles did you encounter? How was it?
Well, the obstacles were the producers, because now we had a lot of producers. We still had Charlie Wang, who was one of the producers. We had Moshe Diamant. We had Michael Douglas's people. Michael Douglas had a guy named Charles Layton that he kind of burdened us with, and so we had representatives of different companies. And Moshe's people were alleging that Charlie Wang was not coming through with his promises, and that he was stealing money from the production. Well, Jean-Claude and I vehemently disagreed with that. We thought Charlie was being a completely stand-up guy and giving us everything we needed. So there was a lot of bickering between them. And eventually, what this led to was, let me have another sip of water. Because we were supposed to shoot the entire movie in Hong Kong originally. Now we decided, and because a lot of money was being spent, because this was really a bigger production than anybody had anticipated. In fact, none of the people we were involved with, the producers, had worked on a movie of this size before. Moshe too. Basically, Moshe, right, it's around the same time was doing the Brian Bosworth movie,
Stone Cold.
Stone Cold, which they did spend quite a bit of money on. And Jean-Claude accused Moshe of siphoning money from Double Impact to put into Stone Cold, which might be true. I have no proof. But anyways, so there was a lot of bickering there. Jean-Claude and I were on the side of Charlie Wang, and Moshe was like the anti-Charlie Wang group. So finally we decided, let's take the production back to LA, where Moshe and Charles Layton and all the rest of them are going to feel comfortable, because otherwise we're on Charlie Wang's territory, and Charlie controls things here in Hong Kong. So let's get the hell out of Hong Kong. We'll go back to LA, which we did during our Christmas break. So Christmas was coming up, Christmas, New Year's. So we used that to transition back to LA. So it's a whole new scout in LA. But also we built sets in LA to replicate what we needed in Hong Kong.
The entire Mahjong
That
parlor.
Mahjong parlor,
It was all LA, yeah.
that's just amazing, because the exterior, Jean-Claude's getting out of the van, going into this place, you cut, and now we're actually in LA, but you could not tell the difference. What we ended up doing was we sent our extras casting people to Chinatown, and plenty of Chinese that know how to play Mahjong, that speak with the Cantonese accent. So that was all populated by extras we found in Chinatown here in LA.
Then you see where JC throws that sidekick to hit that back door open, and kind of see a little bit of
You can see a little bit of the set, right, yeah.
So you shot for how long in Hong Kong?
I'd have to look it up. I'd say
Like approximately a month.
I think maybe a little over a month.
How long did you shoot for here?
Longer, at least like 2 months.
So it's a big shoot. This is at least a 90-day shoot, something like that, give or take. A little less, maybe.
Yeah, well, actually, the number of shooting days was probably more like 60, but there was a lot of prep, a lot of stuff that had to be done.
But all in, it's a good duration. And for Van Damme at that point, that was probably his biggest film.
Absolutely,
At
his
that
biggest
point.
film. His biggest film for sure.
Yeah, now take us through the technicalities of when you have two Van Dammes, and talk a little bit about how you work the doubles, and because obviously you have Jean-Claude hugging his brother, which is a double, and you have two Van Damme sitting beside each other, which is the real Jean-Claude at two different times. Take us a little bit through all that.
Well, that's a long, long story.
Well, we have plenty of time.
We have plenty of time. We ended up, and this is back before CGI. So basically, we had to do this stuff either in camera, or it had to be done, had to be with a optical printer, which is not like just taking something that's digital and transferring it to another digital place. Basically, you've got film, and now you've got a second piece of film. Well, you have to combine those two pieces of film, each frame, overlapping them. You have to use an optical printer. Has basically got one part of it is the projector projecting film, and the other side is a camera with unexposed film. So actually, you have to run the film through twice, because you've got this side, then you've got that side. And we'd shoot one side with Chad, and then basically Jean-Claude's got to go keep the cameras in place, got to go to redo your hair, makeup, take a shower, put new wardrobe on, redo your hair, come back, and now we're doing Alex.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But do you think that you would rather have it, say you shot Double Impact this time frame, you had the CGI and stuff?
Oh, nowadays?
Better film now than it was then, or do you think you'd rather?
No, it's so much easier to do it now.
Yeah, but would it be easier for sure?
Easier for sure, but
would it be a better movie? Or we had Van Damme at his peak.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was I'm asking this: is it that time and place thing? Would Double Impact work today? Not necessarily with Jean-Claude, with or without the concept of a martial arts movie with two brothers played by one actor. Does it work today?
Well, I'll give you an answer. Jackie Chan ended up basically ripping us off
with Twin
Dragons.
But that was 1993.
But that was after Double Impact.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it worked. Today, you think it'd still be a big hit?
Look, if
it would work. It depends who you have.
It depends on, like, if we had a different actor playing the lead in Bloodsport, would Bloodsport be the same movie? Okay, if like Lauren Avedon was playing Frank Dukes in Bloodsport, I'm not denigrating him, but even so, it's not Van Damme. Van Damme brought a special quality to that movie, and he brought a special quality to Double Impact. And the fact that I was a good friend of his and knew him so well, I was able to bring that out.
You were to bring the best out of him.
I was able to bring out the best in him and to push him to do the best.
And no, I'm not putting down any of the other films that he's done.
Right.
This is amazing. But he looks so good in your films. He just, like, the angling, the lighting, everything seems to pop.
Well, there is that for sure. But also, we have to understand that Jean-Claude, the camera loves Jean-Claude. He looks great on camera, but when you get someone like you who knows how to pull out the best of them, it even exasperates.
But the thing is, I started out as a photographer, as a cinematographer. So the visuals, the way that somebody looks means a lot to me. The way I made sure. Look, I would go with him to get his hair done for these movies. To get if he had to dye his hair, like on The Order, we went all over to Tel Aviv. We went to a number of salons just so we could get the right look to him. I would always make sure he was looking good and make sure that he looked good in his wardrobe. It was something I just had an eye for.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm saying. That's what you could. I mean, that translates to the film.
Well, the thing is with you, Sheldon, is you're a personal friend of his.
Right.
Number one. So there's that first and foremost. You're working with a friend. Yeah, you're getting paid and all that stuff. But there's more intimacy. with
Right.
more desire, opposed to somebody who's like, okay, I'm directing this movie and
And
it's
you're
with
protecting it.
you are you know, and also you know him very intimately, so you know what works, what doesn't work.
Right.
You're not
right.
finding out on set. You already know ahead of time.
Well,
You get
I know some of it is, but it's, you know, there's still stuff that you discover on the set. You know, once you're into the scene, you try to push it this way, push that, and also I would make sure that he had good actors around him. That made a
Yeah.
big difference. Okay, the fact that he had somebody like Jeffrey Lewis in Double Impact, that makes a big difference. I wouldn't try to shield him from actors that could outact him, that could outshine him. I would want the best that we could possibly get because he's a competitor. All right. Yeah, I'm not going to let Jeffrey Lewis outshine me in these scenes. I'm going to basically bring myself up to Jeffrey Lewis's level, and that's what would happen.
Now, was Jeffrey Lewis always the first choice for?
No, we had had the casting director, Jim Tarzio, brought in a number of people to try out for that role, and Jeffrey really nailed it. Once Jean-Claude and I looked at and I shot video, we looked at the video, we basically said, okay, this is the guy. We want this guy to play.
Now, was Bolo handpicked by Jean-Claude?
No, both of us.
So how did that come about? So you have a movie, a script. Was Bolo decided on in Hong Kong?
No,
Or
in
way
LA.
ahead of time.
Oh, in LA.
How did that go down?
Because we had, we had like the Zhang's henchman, who I named Moon.
It was already written. You didn't write it for Bolo. It was already written in there.
Well, actually, we kind of tailored it to Bolo, but originally, like I told you, it was in Corsica and Paris. So we had a different character. It wasn't Chinese. Wasn't going to be Bolo. We had, somebody else was going to play that character, but we never cast Corsican Brothers. We never got around to casting. So once it turned into Double Impact, and we're shooting in Hong Kong, so like, all right, so who's going to play Moon? What, we both basically say, what about Bolo? Bolo would be perfect.
And very cool because now you guys are in Hong Kong again.
Right.
Just like Bloodsport.
Was Bolo living in LA or was he in Hong Kong at the time? Because I know he's lived here for a long time.
Right. I'm not sure where he was living. All I know is we saw him a number of times.
So take us through that. Somebody reaches out to him, gives him a call, he comes and meets you.
The casting director, Jim Tarzio.
They actually cast him, or they just said Jean-Claude wants you and Sheldon wants you for this role.
Yeah. Let's get Bolo to play Moon.
So they didn't audition him. It was decided.
Oh no. Basically, we already knew Bolo.
Right.
And the fact that he was in Bloodsport also just.
How long did it take to shoot the first fight scene between the Chad character and Bolo?
The first fight scene.
Yeah, where he kicks Chad's.
Inside the
Mary container.
In the steel container.
Yeah.
I'd say, we spent a few days on that location because there were other things to shoot there also besides just the fight. It wasn't just the fight. One thing I want to talk about with that fight too, when Bolo gets him inside the container and he's punching and knocking his head against the wall. Okay, so that was a steel container. And so I told the art department, can you make a wall? Can you make a piece that goes over the steel that looks the same, that's made out of fiberglass or something soft, so that we can slam Jean-Claude's head into it without hurting him? And so they did that, and it looked pretty.
It's very convincing.
Very effective. Although I must say, after we shot that, after Bolo knocked his head into the wall a number of times, afterwards Jean-Claude said, like, "Oh man, my head is hurting." Yeah.
Well, Bolo was a strong guy. He was pretty much he was pushing him right up against that.
He was right. Yeah. So that worked out well because it was. I'm not sure what the material was, but you didn't see it bending. Basically,
I kind of always thought maybe it was like a wrestling mat type material. Was it?
Yes,
like
it was.
that?
Yeah. And then we did the same in Only the Strong. We got like wrestling mats on that the basketball court.
Okay.
And I told our department the same thing. Like, okay, let's get these wrestling mats painted up to look like it's on a basketball court, and that way we can be tossing people into it and slamming heads against it, and nobody's going to go to the hospital.
A little bit about the edit of the last fight scenes and how it moved, because in the MVD release that came out a couple of years ago, they got the footage from you, and I think it went out on the Blu-ray as an extra, actually.
Right, right, yeah.
The fight scene at the end between the Chad character and Moon and Peter Malona's character and Alex it goes to and fro from one to the other. There's a lot more slow motion. There's a lot of footage was cut out. Why was it cut out? Like, was it a duration time? Was it something like the audience won't like it? Why do we see the US and the international version, which are essentially the same, opposed to seeing this other cut that you had?
Because that was the rough cut. That was the fortunately back then, even though we shot on 35 millimeter film, we did the editing digitally. On we weren't using a cam anymore. We were using whatever the digital program is that we were using. So I was able to make a copy. I was able to copy it from the digital to VHS. So I had these VHS tapes of the rough cut of Double Impact. Now I don't have that for Lionheart, because basically everything was film. We released it. We shot it on film, cut it on film, released it on film. With Double Impact, we cut digitally, so I was able to save the various cuts that we had.
And you still have these?
I still have these at home. Yeah, yeah. Right. That I let MVD use them, and that's how we had all this other footage. There's a scene near the beginning after when they flee Hong Kong after the parents are killed. I shot a whole scene with Jeffrey Lewis by the docks, escaping with one of the babies, and there's some Zhang's thugs are waiting there for him just in case he tries to escape by boat, and then we have him actually getting on the boat and leaving Hong Kong. But that's not in the feature film. We just cut right to
him getting on the boat.
LA. Yeah, just him getting on the boat. So that just felt like we were losing too much time, and the producers wanted to cut to the action right away. So we cut that up. But fortunately, I had that rough cut on VHS, and so we were able to pull those out and put them on the Blu-ray. And there's another Blu-ray being put together right now in Germany, I believe, of Double Impact. It's going to be ultra high def, and fortunately, the guys, I think MVD is coming out with. Anyway, I think the Germans made a 4K version of Double Impact, and the MVD guys, when they heard about this, they said, "Hey, can we get that cut so that we don't have to spend the money to make the 4K?" And they said, "Well, you've got all these cool extras that you put on your Blu-ray. Can you trade us your extras, and we'll let you use our 4K?" So it worked out great for everybody.
What would be really nice is that one of these companies would actually put an uncut version together.
Yeah, full uncut.
Full uncut version. So put all these little things that were cut out,
right.
Put it in. It'll make the movie probably 10 minutes longer. But
those are always the best. I mean, that's as a fan, you saw it after. It's something like that. 30 years later, you get to see it, and it's like watching a new film all over again.
Right, yeah.
In regards to Alana's character, wasn't there some other? Correct me if I'm wrong. Were there not other choices before her?
Oh yeah, well that's on the MVD Blu-ray.
Oh, yes.
I even gave them the footage that I shot of Tia Carrere.
Oh, so there was actually footage that was shot with her.
Sheldon film.
It was just
it was the audition.
it was an audition.
Because I have that, I just haven't opened it up. and
Oh,
watched it yet?
It's on there somewhere.
Okay.
It's on there somewhere, but we actually had to get permission from Tia Carrere, and she said, "Okay, fine, you can use it." We had to get permission from Alana to use that scene also. Um, I'm not sure if we have we might have a Corey Everson uh, ver, version on there also. I'm not sure, but basically Tia Carrere, that was my choice to play Danielle, and Jean-Claude overruled me on that one. He liked Alana better. Tia Carrere ended up being kind of a big deal. Well, she was in
you got
Wayne's World and True Lies.
Makes sense too, right? They're in Hong Kong.
Yeah, that was my point. Like Alex would have an Asian girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay, not this blonde.
It worked out great.
It worked well. There's I think a lot of teenage boys probably played that scene over and over again with Alana.
We're not gonna go there, right, James?
Right, yeah.
So Double Impact is it's shot. Take us through the editing process. So is it the same coordination? You do the audio, the other stuff. Jean-Claude does all the fight scenes. How does that go down?
No, because this was being cut
As you shot.
As we shot.
So Jean-Claude actually sitting with the editor cutting the fight scenes?
And some he wasn't sitting with the editor.
And then kind of approving them, or how was?
No, we had a better editor than the guy that did Bloodsport originally, and Jean-Claude would go in the editing room and work with them, but he wasn't actually cutting the scenes.
Cutting the scene, right?
Yeah.
No, that's what I meant. Like he would dictate this take from this kick, that take from that reaction. Yeah, he's not actually using the mechanics.
Right, but the final kick to Bolo in Double Impact, it is stretched way out, but it's beautifully stretched way out. We used a number of takes, like getting kicked and then falling here and then going here. That was our assistant editor, actually. He said I don't know if he even asked if he could do it, but basically we had our editor cutting it, and the assistant editor said, "Hey, can I try playing around with this?" And he's the one that put that together with all the different.
That fight scene between Jean-Claude and Peter Meloda's character and Bolo's character, that was all shot here, and you shot some of it in Los Feliz on a ship, right? Or San Pedro?
San Pedro.
On an actual ship.
And it was a Liberty ship, a World War II Liberty ship.
Was any of the fight scenes, the actual physicality of the scene, shot on the ship? Yes.
I would say most of it. It's the closer shots that we did in Valencia in a studio.
And how long did it take to shoot the fight scene between Jean-Claude's character and Peter Meloda's character?
Oh, and Peter Meloda?
Whose idea was it to do the silhouette?
It was Jean-Claude's. No, actually, it was Jean-Claude and the DP. And Richard Klein,
because it works great.
That worked. I mean, that's something you never haven't seen.
Well, Richard Klein was, Richard Klein's, like I said, he was Oscar nominated for Camelot. And Richard and Jean-Claude kind of worked out how to do that stuff with moving in and out of the shadow. Because Richard set up the lights.
So now you have this movie, it's edited, it's in the can, everything is done, it's ready for release. Is it another surprise hit? Not in the sense that we know everybody's anticipating it's good. We know it's going to be successful, but is it more successful?
Well, now
because Jean-Claude is on, he's now on this trajectory, becoming one of the biggest action stars, but he's still not really a superstar. But he's about to jump into the A-list.
Right.
So, are you sitting back looking, going, "I knew it," or "I knew it was going to be very successful, but wow, it's even better than I thought"?
Well, the one person that was truly surprised was Moshe Diamant, because Moshe just had his eye on me the entire time, thought I was fucking up the movie, actually wanted to fire me a few times. So Moshe was expecting it to be a mess. So anyway, we put the movie together, and then we did a screening of the rough cut for Moshe and Michael Douglas's executives, and we watched the movie, and it had some temp music to it, temp sound effects. Um, the movie ends, and there's silence in the room, and this one executive who worked for Michael Douglas just said, "Well, it works," and everybody just chimed in there and saying, "Yeah, it works.
Well,
It looks great."
I remember being in Ireland at the time. There was huge anticipation in Combat Magazine, Martial Arts Illustrated. In fact, they had in 1991 a new movie magazine, action movie magazine came out called Impact Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first cover is Chad and Alex, Double Impact.
I've got these. I've got
You've
these
got
at
them,
home.
yeah.
Yeah.
We've looked at these before.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh, by the way, the name I gave you, the executive, was Peter McAlevey. I might have said Peter Malota, but it's Peter McAlevey.
I have a question, Sheldon.
Yeah.
Going back to that fight scene between Bolo and Jean-Claude,
Mhm.
you kind of touched it a little bit with Jean-Claude and Peter Malota. How long did it take for that last fight scene to shoot?
It was a few days, because first we started on the ship. We shot all that stuff with the barrels rolling and all of that, and Jean-Claude first encountering Bolo on the ship. And if you look at the scenes, you'll see that we're seeing a lot. We're seeing the ship. We're seeing there's quite a bit in our field of view. As the fight progresses, it gets tighter and tighter, simply because we didn't get enough shots on the ship. Although we thought we had enough, we cut it together. Jean-Claude and I looked at the cut, and we realized, you know what, we need some more shots here.
meaning shots of kicks and punches, or
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. We need
some more action.
I would say we spent maybe at least one day on the ship.
Because my reason for asking is, didn't they shoot the Bloodsport fight scene in a half a day? Isn't that what JC said?
I'd have to refresh with Jean-Claude, and I'd have to refresh that with David Worth.
Because I know in Jean-Claude Behind Closed Doors,
I believe
he's
Jean-Claude.
talking about it. He says he shot that fight scene in a half a day.
I believe the Bloodsport, the end fight between Jean-Claude and Bolo was 2 days.
2 days.
But when we talk to David Worth, we'll bring that up.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, like, when you think of fight scenes, one of the things that always jumped to me as a kid, okay, in Enter the Dragon, when Bruce Lee wants to pull up his sleeves and fight Bolo at the end. To me, as a kid growing up watching that, I'm like, dude, why does John Saxon have to fight him? I want to see Bruce Lee fight him. JC picked up where Bruce left off. And those two fight scenes, Double Impact and Bloodsport with Bolo, those are my favorite. I mean, and I love the Lionheart.
You and lots of other people.
But I'm telling you, there's just something about those two on screen that just is just magic.
Right.
It's just magic. Like, they could just stand there and move around a little bit. It's like, get you amped up. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was very cool. If it is true that they only shot it in a half a day, seeing the comparison and now having like a real time frame to shoot it, and they both look so good.
I think we might have done 2 days of the fight on the ship. I'm not sure. It might have been 2 days, and it's not like we started running out of time, but we finished our days, and then we cut the scene together, and Jean-Claude and I were just saying it's missing a lot. It's not this is the final fight between Jean-Claude and Bolo. It's got to be better than this.
Well, if you're going to compare it to Bloodsport, it's got to be a little more.
Yeah, we got. So we ended up putting together a space somewhere in Valencia, Santa Clarita. Now, if you look at that fight, some of those fights towards the end, when the camera tilts up towards the ceiling, you see we're not on a ship anymore. Okay, there's like some kind of plastic sheeting up here, and then there's like some plastic sheeting on the sides. We're not on the same.
I thought that ever until you told me about it a couple years ago.
Right.
Never.
So why, here's a question: why not just go back and shoot on the ship? There was no availability, or Moshe didn't want to spend the money.
It's a big deal to get the entire crew and equipment and everything down to San Pedro. Then we actually had to get on the ship and moving the stuff around on the ship. You got all these different staircases to go down.
The flooring was like uneven or something like that. I remember us having a conversation where you said flooring because it was an older ship or something. Wasn't that?
Yeah, well, the flooring is, it was basically wood planking on the floor.
Yeah, and that might have been.
Was it a docked ship, or was it a ship that was still in operation?
Oh, no, it was docked. It was like an old World War II ship. That ship hadn't been out.
That ship's still there?
It might be.
Let's take a drive.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's take a
let's
drive,
do it,
yeah?
man. That'd be good.
We can go and meet you down there, because you're right there.
I ain't far.
We just look it up on those. I've got call sheets from Double Impact also, or location sheets. But as far as I know, yeah, it's a World War II Liberty ship, and tourists take tours on it. So it might still be there.
So a bit like when I worked on Blackwater with Jean-Claude and Double. We were on the USS Alabama.
Mhm.
It's the same ship that Steven Seagal shot Under Siege on.
Oh, no shit. That's
Exact
cool.
same ship.
Very cool.
And those ships are pretty cool when you're in there.
Oh, right.
They
Yeah.
really are. Like they're intricate. But to get back to Double Impact. So Double Impact's in the can. It gets released, Sheldon. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about it? Are you excited? Or are you like, well, what's going on in your head?
I
Take
was
us back.
pretty damn
So
excited.
when you sit down with Jean-Claude, it's in the can. It's about to be released. What's the conversation?
Well, we had an industry screening in Westwood at the Village Theater. It's like the biggest theater in Westwood, and we had a fantastic. It wasn't a test screening. This was like basically an audience. People were invited.
Private screen.
Yeah, and my cousin was there, and he was a basketball fan. He and his son were there, and the son was he was excited because he saw Magic Johnson there at the screening. So Magic Johnson was
And
there
Lou
watching.
Ferrigno was there.
I guess Lou Ferrigno, yeah.
And a whole bunch of people, yeah.
That was a big screening. That was kind of a big deal.
So your next project up with Jean-Claude is?